So everybody, thank you for joining us. I'm here tonight with Dr. Stacey Lessans. She's a local clinical psychologist. Stacey and I have worked together for a couple of years, and when all of this has been going on, I was thinking, like, who better to have a conversation with than somebody that helps people manage anxiety and teaches them, as she would say, to put the oxygen mask on first before putting it on your children. So I know that I have been searching for ways to have these conversations with my kids. I've been searching for ways to manage anxiety as we're all sort of navigating and, spending time at home, how we're dealing with certain situations when it comes to that, working at home with our spouses. And now that our kids are going to be home for 2 weeks, this just seemed like an opportune time for us to go and talk and open it up to Facebook and to the community. So here we are. Thank you for joining me, Stacey, and doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. If anybody has specific questions that they want answered, if you scroll over the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A box. You can type some questions in there, and we'll try to get to those questions at the end. So please feel free to type them in. If you are not on Zoom and you have questions, I believe you can type them into Facebook. It does say that I'm live. If I hit play, I think there's going to be reverb. So, I can see. Oh, hi, Nikki. Nikki's on there. Okay, so great. So people are on Facebook. We've got Zoom going. Wow, I feel like we're moving. This is much more successful than everything that happens leading up to right now. There was a fire in my kitchen like 10 minutes ago, but other than that, we're all good to go. So,
we're all here.
All right, so Stacey, do you want to do just like a quick little intro on your background and who you are for people that don't know you?
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight. My name is Dr. Stacey Lessans. I'm a clinical psychologist in private practice here in Port Washington in the Roslyn area, and also in Manhattan. And my focus is on stress management, anxiety, and mood lifting behaviors to help people live calmer lives. And I focus a lot on hands-on tools and strategies and tailored treatments to be able to really change the way that people think about things and be able to adapt to various situations that may come their way. So this is certainly a new situation for all of us, and certainly lots of adapting and tailoring that's going to have to happen. So I'm excited to join this conversation to get the ball rolling so we can start to think about those strategies that we can try for ourselves to see how we can be the calmest we possibly can despite all that may be going on.
Right. Great. Well, thank you so much. So I guess the biggest question is, like, how do we find calm through this storm, in the midst of like everything that's going on here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many people have reached out to me and have been talking in the community and talking amongst each other. This is certainly a very stressful time for everybody. And it seems like there's kind of global panic that's happening. And so people are reaching out and questioning, is it even possible for us to find some calm right now? Or must we all walk around sort of in this heightened state of anxiety, really panicking, for lack of a better word? And what I've said to everybody is that, yes, we can find calm, we can prepare, we can find calm, and we can find ways to navigate this in the most effective way possible. So today I hope to be able to give you some tools to be able to help do that, but just to let you know that it is possible, and that if we can implement some of these tools, hopefully we'll get closer to that tonight.
Great. So can you share what some of those strategies are? I know you have like an entire toolbox full of amazing tools, but I think people maybe just need a couple to get them started. So what would be like your top 3 for people to start implementing?
Okay, so absolutely. The way that I think about things and that I help work with my clients is how we think about things impacts how we feel about them. And so first, to backtrack for a second, when I was saying before that there are certainly ways that we can find calm within this storm, one of the analogies that I always like to use is a beaker of water as an analogy for our stress levels. So if we think of a beaker of water as being our stress, the more water we pour into the beaker, the more and more stress it represents. And eventually we're going to get to the top and it's going to overflow. All of us walk through the world at any stage and any point, not specific to now, with some baseline level of water in our beaker. So if we're thinking about a time where we're on vacation, for example, our baseline level of water is going to be pretty low for the most part in that beaker, leaving a whole lot of room so that if things were to go awry, there's a whole lot of room, margin of error, before we sort of get to the top and we're boiling over. If during a really stressful time, however, our beaker of water is really high and almost to the top, it takes very little to be able to pour a little bit more water in and ends up having us overflowing. So one of the things that we want to do is use these strategies to help kind of scoop the water out of our beaker so that we lower the baseline level of anxiety to the lowest it possibly can be, given the circumstances. We don't expect by any means for it to be at 0 right now, but to lower it to the lowest place it possibly can be so that we have more room to be able to handle things when things are coming our way. There's a lot of stress that we're going to have to handle, a lot of changes that are going to have to happen. And we really want to have the wherewithal, the strength, the energy, the mental capacity, the cortisol levels to be able to deal with it all. If we're so run down before the stress even truly hits, it's going to be really hard to manage it. So these tools are to help us be able to be in the best position possible to be able to manage whatever situation may come our way. So with that in mind, Haley, when you're asking me about the tools that I think could be helpful, one of them has to do with a cognitive tool. The cognitive tool is the idea of how we think impacts how we feel. One of the ways that anxiety can take a toll on us is because our anxiety can make us think of the worst case scenarios. It can make us think of all the what if possible scenarios and go to a pretty catastrophic place. So what does this look like? Somebody may start to get a sniffle, and right now with everything going on, if they're feeling anxious, that sniffle may sound like, oh no, I might have a sniffle. If I have a sniffle, I may have the coronavirus. If I have the coronavirus, I'm not going to be able to get tested, or I'm going to go to the hospital and there's going to be no bed for me. And if there's no bed for me, I may die. That's taking a sniffle and going to the worst case scenario of potential death. Now, I know this is in the realm of possibilities of things that people are talking about globally. However, it's not the expectation for every person who has a sniffle. Sniffles could be cold. Sniffles could be corona and be okay. Sniffles don't go to that worst case scenario every single time.
And there's a lot of allergies right now,
and
too.
A lot of allergies. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so one of the things that we talk about is how we can bring ourselves to the moment, whether we're talking about corona or anything else, saying, anytime we're worried about something, especially thinking about something in the future, we say, first, is there anything I could do about it now? If the answer is yes, we want to do it. If the answer is no, we have to say, this is our worry, and we're getting 10 steps ahead of ourselves. We can't live in a narrative that hasn't even happened yet as if it's happened. A lot of people are panicking, living as if these worst case scenarios have played out for them. And thankfully they haven't yet. We want to take precautions. We want to do everything we possibly can to prevent things from happening, but we don't want to have our anxiety be as if they've already happened. So
that's such amazing advice. I can't tell you, I'm fielding a lot of that in my own world right now. And I think that's such good advice to give to people. I can't wait to share this with people that need to be watching it. They're not watching it. But that's a really good point. I always say that to my mom, like, you're worried about things you have no control over. Like watching the news, I always tell her, stop watching the news because you have no control over what's going on the news, and all it does is stress you out. Why would you put yourself in that elevated sense of stress all day, every day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which actually brings me to my next tool. And that tool has to be ways that we can contain the anxiety and contain the worry. Right now, we're all experiencing, myself included, and I implement and practice what it is that I preach. We're all experiencing the news talking about coronavirus and all the fears of coronavirus 24/7. If you turn on your social media feeds, it's nonstop, and it goes and it goes and it goes. It's very easy to get really caught up on it and have that be your sole focus. One of the things we want to do is find ways to be informed without letting this take over our lives completely. And so the strategy is how we can contain the worry by literally setting up worry time. And that worry time is either designated time where I'm going to look at my phone, watch the news, check my social media, or that worry time could be I have all these thoughts going through my head, whether they're about the virus itself, what it's going to be like to be at home, what's happening with the economy, what's happening all around us, where we're saying, I'm allowing myself to think about this, maybe for a little bit in the morning from 9 to 9:30, and in the evening from 5:30 to 6, and that's it. And as soon as my worry time is done, and I literally mean setting a timer, allowing yourself to worry, thinking about all these things, trying to problem solve, and then after that, doing something mood lifting, distracting to help take your mind off of it, because otherwise it's going to be perpetual and you're not going to be able to focus on anything else. And sitting and worrying and just thinking when there's nothing you can specifically do about it is not actually going to be helpful for us.
Awesome. That's another great one.
Thank you. With that tip, I would definitely also recommend writing things down. Oftentimes,
I was going to ask about journaling.
Absolutely. Our minds can feel as if it's just a broken record going over and over with the same thoughts. People are concerned about their loved ones. People are concerned about what it's going to be like to be in their house, what's going to happen to their children, what's going to happen to their relationships being cooed up. All of that is something that is on people's minds. If we write it down on a piece of paper, when you're having the same thought over and over and over again, it's okay to say, it's on that piece of paper, don't need to think about it anymore, because the more we think about it, the more immersed we get in it and the more anxious we're going to feel as well.
Absolutely. And that brings me to sort of the next question, which is, people are going to be spending so much more time at home, so much more time on social media, so much more time in front of the TV. What kind of strategies can you give us to, even though we're going to be on those channels, to keep us sort of sane with access, some of like when people are working, they're working, they don't have access to all of that all day long. And so, you catch up on it, at certain times during the day, but now people are going to be at home and, there's other things that they're going to be doing. But I think there's a lot more access to all of that social and all of those, the news channels. So how can you, what do you recommend for that as well?
So I think this is a really unique time. And I think something that can be helpful for all of us is to find a way to mimic our normal lives and as best as way as possible. So what we do on a day-to-day basis is something that we want to try to adapt in our homes. So having a structure within our house. So if you're at work and you do things for certain times a day, we want to try to implement that at home. For kids, if they have their certain structure to the day, whether it's within their class, and I know lots of schools are talking about different ways to have online classrooms in different ways, and over the days we'll see how that develops, but really having a schedule so that we know what we're doing each hour or each half an hour. And obviously we can be flexible about it. It doesn't need to be super rigid, but it can be helpful to have an idea of what it is that we're doing for the day. Because if we're just sitting there kind of thinking of what to do, first of all, in those bored moments, it can be really hard to come up with something creative or productive. And it's easy to just pull out your phone and go on it. When you go on your phone and all you're doing is scrolling through and seeing the latest news, certainly that's not going to be mood lifting for anybody. So if we can say, I'm going to check my phone, a certain number of times and kind of limit it, or keep my phone in the other room, or have some structure and say, I'm going to go do something else and then do that, I think that could be really helpful. The other thing, and I know I started to do this, is really to take out a piece of paper and list out all the things you'd like to do in your house. There's something really nice about being in your house, not having anywhere to go, not having all the push-pulls that we have in our lives happening at the same time. So if we can say, okay, what are things I've been wanting to do, whether it's organizing, whether it's catching up on things, whether it's spending some really mindful, productive time with our families, whatever that may be, making a list so that you can implement those things in each of your days, those ingredients into each day to have structure. And then lastly, I would say having anchoring behaviors, those things that help lift your mood and help keep you on track. For example, getting up in the morning. It's easy for us to lay around in our pajamas all day. That feels good for a few days, but we keep doing that, and that can lead to depressive feelings as well. We can feel kind of lazy, we can feel unmotivated, and that certainly isn't going to help us be our best self to be able to fight whatever may come our way if there is something that comes our way. So if we're able to say, I'm going to get up, I'm going to shower, I'm going to get dressed so that I feel as if I'm ready to take on the day. It may not be in the most active way that it was before, but that may be a behavior to set the mindset that we're still functioning and we're still doing the things that we need to do, do, albeit in a different kind of way.
Those are all great tips. And I'm going to be doing another Facebook Live tomorrow where I'm going to share some tips for people that are working remotely, how to manage working from home now that you're not commuting to the office, and also how to manage the schedule with the kids and things like that. So
Great.
I'll be doing that tomorrow at some point. I'm not sure when, but I will definitely let people know. One of the things, I'm actually scared to ask this question, the hot topic all over social media. And I'm actually, before I came on here, I was checking the boards or the Facebook groups, and I can see like husbands and wives, disagreeing about social distancing. And, I think one of the things I would just love your input on, maybe it's advice to people, everybody has a difference of opinion. I'll be perfectly honest. And actually we did get a question in from Susan saying she usually goes to the gym a couple times a week. I go to the gym 6 days a week. That is my sanity. Thankfully, and I'm going to plug them because I think that they're a different type of situation, but I go to a gym where when you go in, you have your own equipment, you clean it before you get started, you use it the entire time you're there, and then you clean it before you leave. They've also just set up social distancing within the gym so that you could be 6 to 10 feet away from the person working out next to you. They've limited the sizes of classes. They've done all of these things to create a safe environment for people that want to still get their workouts in. And I feel like there's the left side and there's the right side, and there's people that are adamantly disagreeing that anybody should be out of their house and about. I mean, I saw people getting mad that people were on soccer fields today and lacrosse fields and softball fields. What is your recommendation for, how we can navigate, the anger that people are feeling for the difference of opinion in terms of who feels one way or another? I don't even know if you have an answer.
It's a really good question. It's hard to have a specific answer about it. I think at the end of the day, we're really using the tools and strategies that we use whenever we're at odds with somebody or maybe not on the same page. I think something for us to keep in mind is that we all are a community here. We all have needs, and our needs may be different, but we all have them. And so animosity, anger, fighting with one another, certainly not helping the situation. The same thing within people's own homes. If there's a disagreement on how to handle a situation, how can we resolve the conflict so that that doesn't become one more added stressor to the mix? This situation is stressful enough. The last thing we need is fighting on top of it. And so I'd say people are certainly entitled to their opinions and to disagree with other people's opinions if we could do it in the most respectful of manners. I think that's the best thing that we can try to do as a community at large, and really trying to communicate as effectively as possible why you may have one position or why you may have another. Certainly resorting to yelling, fighting, cursing, any of that. At the end of the day, it just becomes heated and doesn't actually help the situation.
No, not at all. Not at all. But on that topic as well, like the people that are, staying at home and really isolating themselves, whether they are sick or not sick, that also is, we are social animals. And so what do you recommend for people to not feel isolated and lonely during social distancing?
So I think it's a really good question, because one of the things that can be so helpful to all of us when we're going through a difficult time is social support. And so on one hand, we're advocating for social distancing right now so that we're containing the potential spread, yet we're not advocating for lack of social support and lack of social interaction, perhaps in person or less than 6 feet interaction, but not social interaction in general. We're seeing tonight, this is a perfect example of ways that we can connect to the community, which was the idea behind this. How can we connect, support, given the parameters that we have? So I think really turning to virtual, whether it's classes, whether it's FaceTimes, whether it's group chats, whatever it may be, to really still feel connected within the community, because it's easy to feel alone and feel isolated. You're not alone, even if you're physically distant from other people. So you have to find those channels to be able to reach out. And in fact, we're seeing that things like museums are offering virtual tours and online classes, and colleges are offering things to all people. So there are ways that we can actually connect more than we've ever connected before, just it may be a different way than we're used to.
I spent a lot of time today talking to clients about how to take like this conversation with you, same thing. And that people are very uncomfortable bringing themselves, out there. This is a very uncomfortable situation for many people. But I spent a lot of time today talking to clients about some ideas for them on what they could do with their businesses to connect with other people during times like this. And I feel like that's that's something to use your brain for, I think, while you're at home, is how can I do what I do virtually, to keep the economy going and to keep your business going, and to keep your sanity. One of the things that I didn't finish was the rest of Susan's question, which is, she is an avid gym goer, and she's been walking outside now, but she's worried about not getting enough sleep because she's not maintaining the same level of activity. And she was saying, like, what are some of the things that she can do? And, I know that there's so many free resources out there, Susan. You can find plenty of workout classes online, searching up on Instagram. I know that a lot of coaches, including the coach at our gym, is going to start posting certain workouts that you can do at home with little or no equipment at all. There's a lot of body weight workouts you can do. If you go to a gym, I would ask one of the trainers there if there's something that they can recommend for you to do at home. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Stacey.
Exactly that. I would say that there's lots of virtual options being offered right now. And it's a good way to try something different. And for all we know, when we go back to the new norm, which hopefully will not be too far off from now, it may be that we see that there are benefits of this. And we see that going to a gym may be something that if we can save the time and do it virtually, we see that maybe that's a new way that actually helps our day-to-day life. So I think there are lots of silver linings that can come of this. I do think specifically with gym, there are lots of options for online workouts. So hopefully one of those can feel comfortable and exciting for you. And maybe it's even something different. Maybe it's doing a dance class instead of a running class, or maybe it's going outside on a nice day and going for a brisk walk. It's trying different things and maybe even finding new things that you enjoy during this time as well.
Mm-hmm. And I know that our mutual friend, Dawn Ader, will be posting starting tomorrow, different activities that are physical that you could do with your kids at home. So she will be doing a Facebook Live tomorrow also. So if you don't follow her, you can go follow her and watch that. She's got some great tools in her toolkit that I think can help so many people. So one of the other questions that came in was, with everybody in the same house, how could we all just get along?
It's a great question. It's day 2 or day 3 for people. And I know people are already itching a little bit and a little bit what ifing. If it's like this on day 3, what's it going to be like on, day 15? But I think we need to reel it in and say we need to take one day at a time. There are going to be easier days. There are going to be harder days during this. And we have to really take each day at a time, as cliche that is. However, one of the things we really need to keep in mind is that when there are different people living under one roof and everyone is adjusting, everybody copes in a very different way. So you may have somebody in your household that likes to cope by talking about this nonstop. You have somebody else who may want to shut themselves in their room and not talk so much about it. Somebody else who wants to be who wants to watch TV. I think one of the things we need to do is really honor that people cope in different ways and really try to connect with their way of coping to say, okay, what do you need right now? If you're looking for space, and if space is limited, or even if it's not, how do we give people sort of their personal private space, even within the confines of being all together, kind of cooped up together? I think another thing is to really watch our own emotional barometers. If we're with people and we're starting to feel frustrated, how can we take a little bit of a time out, a breather, do some calming exercises, listen to some music, go watch TV, listen to a funny comedy, do something to help dial your mood down. Because if you approach a situation with irritability or a lack of patience or frustration, all we're doing is adding fuel to the fire. We all need to approach this from a place of, how can I enhance the situation, improve the situation, try to make the situation the best that it can be, rather than how I'm to add to the situation in terms of worsening it. And one of the things that I always talk about with my husband is this idea of passing the baton, that when you're dealing with kids, when you're dealing with other family members, that one person may be good to go and energized and ready to help and roll up their sleeves, and then they may get tired, and then it's like passing the baton to the next person, so the first person can have a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather, whatever that may look like, and then the next person can be on. But to expect all people to be on all the time is not realistic. But if we each take a little bit of a turn kind of being on, and we honor people who need a little bit more space, it's a way that we can coexist and be okay. I know a lot of people are joking about that come December, there'll be lots of babies that are born. So there's a positive of people being cooped up together where people think it will be a bonding experience. Whereas for others, I don't know if it will increase tensions, and I imagine that it will within families. So I think it's important for us to recognize that this is tough and be really empathic, especially for teenagers and children who are really out of their realm, and they're all of a sudden having parents around them 24/7, and they're monitoring 24/7. They don't have an outlet. They're not with their friends. I think really empathizing that this is really, really, really hard, and really trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, find ways that they can feel more in control within the situation, and know that there's going to be adapting to happen. And as adults, it's hard for us to adapt, and let alone as children, it's even harder for them to adapt as well.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we can do an entire session on how to navigate your relationship when you're now all working from home.
Yes, that's a good next series for sure.
Yes, part 2 is Stacey Lessons, how to navigate working at home with your husband. I will actually cover a tip tomorrow, which I'm happy to share tonight, which is if you are now working from home, and it's not a place that you've always worked from, and you and your spouse are both working from home, one of my really big things that I always talk about is to declare your space and make sure that your space is not the family common space. Because the last thing you want when you're working from home is to situate yourself in the kitchen, which is normally the family, common space, and then to be shushing the family all day long because you're trying to get work done. So find a space that's yours, make sure it is not the common space. Put yourself in a different room, and then come back in to socialize in the common space. I think it's also a really good time for, if husbands are now at home, granted, I know that they're home working or should be working, but it's a great time to find out like what your wife needs help with, or vice versa. What the other spouse needs help with throughout the day. Like maybe it's, you guys can do fun meal planning. I mean, there's like a million ideas out there in terms of how to kind of navigate this whole situation and bring a fun element into it. Like, make fun snacks for the kids, like get them involved, food eating contests and things like that. Obviously don't be wasteful with the food that you have, but
Yes.
little things like that to try to make it fun and to have a plan really, I think is super important in terms of just like knowing like what your meals are going to be. Maybe make a different kid, depending on their age, in charge of a different meal every day to make it fun, like surprise lunches and things like that. To get back to like a more serious topic, somebody wrote in a question. Elizabeth said, what about seeing my parents? I miss them and love to see them, although they are elderly. And I'm sure we can all chime in on this. I'll chime in from like the realistic standpoint is that we have told grandparents not to visit right now. We have actually told them to not leave their homes. I actually asked somebody to go deadbolt my mother's door in Florida because she thinks that she's in Florida and safe. And so she's still going out for dinners, which is not okay at her age. And she's compromised. So, the more people you see, the more people you're compromising. And so, if you're staying home and you've been home for the last 10 days and you're showing no symptoms, maybe you could go see your parents, but I would be really cautious because you don't want to give them anything. I think we all just have to ride the storm. FaceTime is great. We've implemented that in our house where our kids are going to be FaceTiming the grandparents as often as possible. And so I would say try to find things where you can still connect and see faces, but not put anybody in harm's way. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
I agree with that. And I think that the more things we can do to help them feel connected, the better it's going to feel as well. I know we have a digital picture frame and you can email pictures to that picture frame. I don't know what it's going to be like with Amazon these days, but if it's something, or maybe they already have it, where you're able to send pictures, where you're able to FaceTime, where you're able to even like play a card game through the phone, connect, talk on the phone, still have that connection, still have that emotional support, still give that virtual hug. But unfortunately, seeing each other in person right now is something that we have to hold off on for a bit.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to make this too long. Was there anything else that you want? We don't have any other questions unless anybody on Facebook is posting questions. Let me just look over here. No, we got a lot of thank yous, so you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but is there anything else that you wanted to add or share? I know that you had mentioned that you were going to try to, post some tips on Facebook or anywhere out there that people can get access to you. I know they can go to your website. You want to share that URL?
Great.
We can share the URL in here, and we can also share it on Facebook as well. But you can sign up for Stacey's newsletter, and she will be sharing some tips and strategies throughout this journey that we're all on. Is there anything else that you wanted to share, Stacey?
I think that while we're all thinking of this or many people are thinking of this in a negative light, I think it's really important to really try to focus on the silver linings that may come of this. That obviously is not the only part of it, but if we can find those silver linings, the better this experience is going to be. Anecdotally, it was my daughter's 6th birthday this weekend, her birthday party. She is a birthday obsessed little kid who counts from one birthday till the next, the days that she has. And we had to cancel her birthday. And I was really concerned about canceling it and the impact that it would have on her. And we went into the conversation thinking she may be upset about that. And then so going to the what ifs, I said, okay, what if she's upset? I said, okay, so what can I do about it now? I said, okay, we're going to make this the best weekend it could possibly be. And she became birthday queen and was able to dictate what she wanted for the weekend. She was in control. And candy for breakfast, and she was the most excited little child you've ever seen. And so the idea is that this could have been, and I anticipated there was no way that this was going to go well. How would me canceling her birthday party ever go well? But we came up with an alternative strategy, and it actually worked out quite well. Obviously, no birthday party in the grand scheme of all of this is the least that we're talking about, but the idea is that I could have never predicted that she could ever be okay with it, and she was. And there's so many different adaptations and things that we're going to have to do to adapt to this situation. And it doesn't mean it's all bad. It means that there are lots of silver linings that can happen, lots of ways we can connect to each other and we can help each other. And I think times like this, we really just want to feel like a true team, whether it's within your inner circle, in your house, within your friends, or really the community at large. And really asking yourself, what is it that you can do for yourself, for your family, for your community right now to help us all get through this? And I really hope that we're doing a PS to all of this in a very short time to say we're on the other side of it and to kind of post-cap everything that happened and recap it all. But while we ride through the storm, I'm here to support and help, and certainly reach out if you have any questions, and hope to do more of these to the to see what may be helpful to people, and certainly happy to host specific ones on topics if people are interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And if you are interested in certain topics, please shoot me a text or shoot me a message on Facebook, shoot Stacey a message. I'm happy to do these daily if people really find it helpful. Not to say that you're available daily, but we're all going to have a little more time on our hands in the next few weeks. So thank you so much, Stacey. I know that this has been super helpful for me. I'm sure it's been super helpful for other people. And it will live on Facebook. We will also post it in other places, so stay tuned. You'll be able to find it in multiple areas. So thanks, everybody, for joining tonight. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ride the storm, everybody. Good luck.
Absolutely. Stay safe and stay calm. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm going to stop streaming. And then I think I just have to end it. So, all right. Thank you.
Have a
good night.